Hey Duluth, thanks for tuning in tonight. Here we are, after 10 long months on the campaign trail, we have finally arrived at Election Eve. Now this may not be an official holiday in your house, but it sure is in mine. Here are two fun facts about me. I enjoy doing the work, I do not enjoy campaigning, and I'm an introvert doing a very extroverted kind of thing. Now many of you know I teach college, and many of you know I'm in my 19th year of service in the US Navy. What I don't talk a lot about is that I'm also a licensed attorney. I went back to law school in my 40s and spent 4 years completing a part-time JD program. Nights and weekends on top of everything else. Not the easiest thing to do, but I'm a hard worker and I'm not afraid of doing the hard things. I graduated with honors and just 2 weeks later deployed to Afghanistan. So I had to wait a year to take the bar exam, with just a few other things occupying my mind during that deployment. So the lawyer in me thinks about tonight as the closing argument. We've spent 10 months presenting evidence and having the discussions, 14 debates and forums, the direct result of the first meaningful race for mayor in 16 years. Facts and statistics have been presented. And over the past 10 months, from one end of town to the other, you all have also submitted your own evidence from what you think, feel, see, and experience as residents and taxpayers in our community. Duluth, I'm running for mayor because, like many of you, I simply think it's time for something different. It's time we expect more and do better with core city services like streets, utilities, and public safety, our neighborhood parks and community centers, engaging our residents. And I'm also running because we haven't had a meaningful election for mayor since 2007. 4 years ago, 2/3 of Duluthians didn't even vote. That's not healthy for Duluth or for democracy. City government cannot do everything, nor should it. Our role is to be a good partner, to do the hard work of paying attention to the basics, effective, efficient, and at a tax rate we can both afford and sustain. When done right, it doesn't even make the news. It just works. And it's a foundation that allows our residents to succeed, our businesses to grow, and our neighborhoods to thrive. Duluth, right now we are sort of good and we should be exceptional. Our unique neighborhoods, abundant outdoor spaces, the big lake, and of course, our people. In the last census, we grew by only 400 residents. That is 0.5%, while all other regional centers in Minnesota grew at an average of 10%. That's not growth, it's stagnation. We started this campaign from zero. I haven't held elected office for 7 years, and I never thought I would again be stepping forward. But Duluth, you have responded to our campaign. So here are a few numbers from the past 10 months that reflect your response. 2014 one-on-one and small group conversations, 266 events and gatherings, 1,674 of you subscribe to our newsletter, 2,194 of you are hosting a yard sign, and another 100 of you have the jumbo ones. 596 of you have made a campaign contribution. 87% of those were local, and 72% were $100 or less. And in those thousands of conversations, you have told me that it's time for something different. That you want a mayor and administration that listens and cares about core city services. A mayor and administration that cares about what you care about. Housing across all income levels, growing our commercial tax base, streets, downtown Duluth, and affordable property taxes. And not just because it's campaign season. There are practical and tangible steps the next mayor and administration can take in each of these areas, and it's time we do. No magic wands or wishful thinking required. Just focus, priorities, good communication, and hard work. So tonight I want to take a few minutes and tie all of this together for you. We're going to talk again about your 5 big issues. I'm going to invite you to ask a few questions, and I will close with our campaign values. Before we revisit the issues, I just want to remind you that while it may seem like it, mayor is not the only thing on the ballot tomorrow. 6 of 9 city council seats, or 2/3 of the city council, is also up for election. Now, I'm not endorsing candidates or asking them to endorse me, but I will say this: pay attention to which ones are focused on the same things we are. Core city services, effective, efficient, and at a tax burden we can both afford and sustain. Those are the counselors I know will work with me to get done what we need to do. So now let's talk about the issues. The entire first part of our campaign was spent listening to Duluthians and taking notes. And out of that came your 5 big issues. Again, housing across all income levels, developing our commercial tax base, streets, downtown Duluth, and affordable property taxes. Now, back in August, Mayor Larson referred to these in an early debate as a list of complaints. But I think she quickly realized these were not issues I made up, but ones about which Duluth voters actually care. The result? They were no longer called a list of complaints. We saw a proposed 2024 city budget that reflected these priorities. The mayor started using our own language, repeating phrases like housing across all income levels. And we saw a press conference a day with study groups and consultants and task forces. And we started hearing statistics in the debates like 850%, 22%, 1,700 units in 4 record years. Friends, that's streets, public safety, housing, and commercial development. There is no debate on the issues. And we have been right on the issues since the beginning. Why? Because you told us these were the issues. So now let's talk one more time about each of them. And we'll start with housing across all income levels. Duluth, we have to grow our population. 0.5% or 400 new residents in the last decade is a failure. Not growing is stagnation, and stagnation leads to decline. But in order to grow our population, we have to get serious about housing. Not 40 new homes, but 400, and across all income levels. The critical problem is that the Duluth housing market is stuck in the middle. Those who have the means overpay or overrent for the options that are available. This puts downward pressure on the housing stock, resulting in a growing population that need more affordable housing options. We have too many lifelong Duluthians who can no longer afford a home in their hometown. But there are tangible steps we can take to ramp up construction of for-purchase inventory. And it isn't creating $195,000 tiny homes. These measures include addressing infrastructure costs, employer purchase price assistance, fast-tracking downtown residential, and adding tax-forfeited properties to the proven land trust model. Next, let's talk about growing our commercial tax base. We must grow our commercial tax base. Why? Because when our commercial tax base isn't growing, our local property tax burden shifts to residential homeowners. In 2022, we saw a proposed 9% property tax increase. At the same time, we were all experiencing an almost 9% inflation. The average income in Duluth is $34,000, and an average household income is $58,000. That tax rate is simply not affordable for most Duluth homeowners. So what's the solution? Grow our commercial tax base. In Minnesota, commercial property tax pays roughly 2/3 of the bill. So when it's not growing, the rest of us pay more. It's critical we make Duluth an attractive place to start and grow a business. And yet Duluth has a reputation as a challenging place to do business, and that's not just a tired old narrative. This means we incentivize the development that we do attract. And too often, it means we lose out on commercial property taxes as a result, sometimes for as much as 30 years. Again, who makes up that difference? Existing businesses and homeowners. I am committed to being a partner and not a hurdle for our projects. We can do this while upholding our community standards reflected in zoning and building codes. We will grow together, enhance our city's affordability, and increase our capability to provide quality core city services that are robust and affordable. Our motto in City Hall must be, how do we get to yes? Streets, third issue. This is usually all caps and lots of exclamation marks, because that's how you talk to me about it. Friends, we need to discuss the condition of our streets. Last spring, this summer, and let's be honest, even this fall. Streets, utilities, and public safety are basic expectations that residents have of our city. And with winter just around the corner, we should add snow plowing to that list. As council candidate Tara Swenson said in one of our debates, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So let's consider tangible steps the next mayor and administration can take to improve our failing streets. 1, examine every street mile in Duluth. Categorize streets as green, yellow, or red so we can create an easy to understand repair map for residents. And you can anticipate when your repairs will happen. As with most things in life, not knowing is the worst. 2, ask ourselves if every street mile needs to exist. Are there connectors and access points that no longer serve a purpose? Any reduction in our existing inventory means we can better maintain the rest. 3, add permanent staff to public works. We have fewer street maintenance staff now than we did in the 1990s. And it's crucial that we have enough staff not only to build new streets, but also maintain them and extend the usable life. 4, bonding against the half-cent dedicated sales tax. This is not risky. This is following the St. Louis County proven model, and it helps us overcome the hill of diminishing returns. And lastly, let's put to work cash we currently have on the city budget sidelines, the Community Trust Fund, American Recovery Act, and the General Fund Cash Reserve. All can be applied to rebuilding streets and utilities. And in 2024, we will also approach the Minnesota legislature with a plan for a generational investment in streets and utilities. We will build a coalition of regional centers along with Minneapolis and St. Paul to lobby the governor and the legislature to get this done. Minnesota must be serious about our own version of President Biden's infrastructure investment plan. Next up, downtown Duluth. A downtown is a community's heart, and we need a downtown that is vibrant and thriving. But first, we must address the reality of current challenges, concerns you all have about attractiveness, safety, and cleanliness. To get there, we need a multifaceted approach that addresses mental health and addiction struggles and a long-term strategy of a statewide investment in mental health. These are crucial, and combined locally with a supportive housing option similar to the San Marco. That's a proven housing option for those in our community struggling with addiction. Quite simply, jail and the ER are neither effective or affordable. And in the short term, we also need to enforce our community norms. We have to support our law enforcement and clean and safe teams. We must also see the current surplus of commercial space as the gift of downtown housing. Converting surplus commercial spaces into residential units will encourage more people to live downtown, which in turn will grow new downtown retail options and also contribute to overall public safety. The fifth of your big issues is affordable property taxes. In 2016, the City of Duluth General Fund was $80 million. In 2022, $106 million, a 25% increase. In 2016, the city property tax levy was $24.2 million, and in 2022, $43.6 million. And that was after that proposed 9% property tax levy last fall. That's a 44% increase in the city property tax levy over just the last 8 years. No Duluthian I know has seen a 44% wage increase to match. And for 2024, another proposed property tax increase. And that's despite record state aid and $58 million in federal recovery dollars. Now, it is reasonable for us to pay property taxes. Through them, we buy things we could never purchase individually: a street system, a school system, fire and police services. But property taxes must be affordable and they must be sustainable. And that is no longer the case for far too many Duluth homeowners, especially those in our community on fixed incomes, the retired, elderly, disabled, and my fellow veterans. And if you're a renter, you may not be paying that increase directly, but you're seeing it in the sharp increase in your rents. Duluth, it's time for something different. We need to rebuild trust between residents and City Hall by excelling at those very things for which most of us are willing to pay, core city services. And it's time for us to say yes to your offers to partner with the city and contribute to our community. The city cannot nor should it do everything. But from the Duluth Heights Community Club, to Daha Youth Hockey and Skating, to Lester Golf, we have residents that are ready and willing to help, to contribute, who expect more and want to do better, and are currently being told no. Now, for even more on the 5 big issues, please go to rogerforduluth.com/issues. Do it tonight. We're voting tomorrow. We have put out more content than any mayoral candidate in Duluth history, and on our website, you can find me digging into each issue step by step. Now, before we leave the core issues, I do want to take a minute to address the facts that have been offered by Mayor Larson in rebuttal throughout the debate season. I think it will help answer a couple why questions. Why does your reality not align with what you're being continuously told? Why has it taken 8 years for these big issues to suddenly be a priority? Now, it would be generous to say it has nothing to do with election year politics or the first truly contested race for mayor in 16 years. But friends, I've seen what you've seen. Duluth has had more mayor in the last 8 weeks than in the past 8 years. Let's talk about a few of these statistics. 850% when we talk about streets. Now, technically that number is correct, but it's only going from 2 to 17 miles of road construction per year. And even with election year math, we're still only doing 50 miles over the next 3 years, 18.4, 14.6, and 14.7. Those include overlays and not complete reconstruction. And when we overlay, we leave other utilities issues underground. You know this is true because you see it when a new street in your neighborhood is dug up a year or two later to fix a broken water or sewer line. And yes, it is true that when I was on the council 18 years ago, we only did 1 or 2 miles of new streets per year. That's because at the time the general fund was closer to 70 million versus 108 million, and the only resources we had were the Fond du Lac Casino Trust proceeds. Back then, the interest on those funds was dedicated to street repair. Now, we still have those funds, but today we also have a healthy reserve fund, the half-cent sales tax dedicated to street repair, and American Recovery Act dollars. The financial picture of the city today is not what it was nearly 20 years ago. And that's in large part because back then, we made some difficult decisions to set the city up for fiscal success today. Let's talk about the record 4 years of investment. Is it true? Yes. Does it tell the whole picture? No. So I'll refer you to page 50 of the City of Duluth's 2023 budget book. There you will read that, and I quote, construction permit fees have been higher due to the $1 billion essential construction project in the last few years. The number of permits is down 5% from 2019, but the fee charged per permit has increased, so permit revenue remains stable, end quote. Stable and slightly down is not the same as record-breaking. And we must also take into account record home improvement during the pandemic. Necessity was one factor driving that building boom. Americans were forced to use their homes more and differently. You know, I read a National Public Radio story, and in that story they said, again, quote, these are all-time highs. In terms of like measured history in the United States, this is the highest level of home improvement spending we have ever seen, end quote. This is why we can say 4 record years of investment based on permit fees, but not see that commercial tax contribution to our local government coffers. And that's the money we need to maintain quality city services and also ease the pressure on residential property taxes. Let's next talk about 22% reduction in crime. Now, first of all, that doesn't align with what most Duluthians see or are experiencing, and it also doesn't align with reality. Let's look at a few outside third-party data points. So I'll refer you to a website called Neighborhood Scout. It's a website that combines multiple crime-related statistics and sorts them by community. There you will see that property crime in Duluth is nearly double the state average. We have 38 per 1,000 versus 21 per 1,000 statewide. And violent crime has actually grown. 312 incidents in 2016 compared to 318 in 2022. And that's according to a fairly reputable organization known as the FBI. The reality is we are beginning to accept a new norm as a community. We're not calling. The clean and safe walk along that I did downtown and my ride along downtown, I learned that people have stopped calling. We need people to say something when they see something, and our residents need to believe that something will happen when they do call. And our public safety team needs to believe that they have a partner in City Hall. I am so grateful and appreciative to Duluth Fire and Duluth Police for your support in this election, and I am eager to be your next partner. So next up, let's talk about 1,700 new housing units. Again, units, not homes. Many are in the affordable and ultra-affordable category. Important, the single largest expenditure of Duluth's American Recovery Act funds. Now, Mayor Larson stated a few days ago that we have seen the largest housing boom in 30 years at all income levels. Again, note the language. I guess imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Now, we have discussed housing at all income levels as one of our and your 5 big issues since last spring. But second, this is just additional affirmation that we are right on the issues. But clearly, 1,700 new units has not moved the needle in our housing market. The housing market continues to be stuck in the middle. Our priority has to be for-purchase single-family homes. We created 389 new homes over the last 10 years, but 353 were also demolished. That means that in 10 years, we only added 36 new single-family homes to our inventory. People are still moving to the region. They are just not living in Duluth. And the population growth data tells that story. All of Duluth's near neighbors grew by 7 to 10% in the last census. And again, Duluth grew by 0.5%. Now, Mayor Larson and her allies have spent a decent chunk of time and money attacking my past local and state elected service. Some of these attacks arrived in your mailbox, first as part of the Risky Roger campaign launched from St. Paul, also as part of an attack pack funded from Washington, D.C. But they also were mailed directly to you from the Larson for Mayor campaign. Billboards, social media hit ads, YouTube ads, websites, and at least 9 attack mailers. The back of the napkin math puts the figure spent just to tell you how awful I am at well over $200,000. Here again, we have to ask why. Why has a DC-funded special interest group and an entire state political party machine targeted our campaign and our little Duluth, Minnesota race for mayor? And why has a 2-term incumbent not only refused to reject, but actively engage in DC-style politics in our local election? Attack, attack, attack is usually the playbook for the challenger, not the confident incumbent. We recently did what I call the final rebuttal. It's posted on our YouTube channel, and I know many of you have not only watched it, but shared it as well. And I'm not going to take time tonight to go over all the cherry-picked votes that have been used to try and convince you I'm something I am not. If what you have been sent in the mail, shown online, or told to you in debates is concerning, please take a few minutes to go and watch that video. I give you the context necessary to put the A5 amendment vote on the omnibus policy bill from 2012 and all the others into the context both you and those votes deserve. However, I do want to take a moment tonight to be very clear on this point. I am proud of my service. I have given the better part of 20 years of my adult life in service to my city, my state, and my nation. I spent a year in Afghanistan, fighting overseas so we don't have to fight at home. And that year came with some sacrifices that cost me dearly. You don't hear me talk a lot about that because while I am proud of my service and the sacrifices, others gave so much more. Others never made it home. And at the start of COVID, while most were staying home, figuring out how to work remotely, how to Zoom, I raised my hand and volunteered to go forward, overseas again. This time to Italy, which was the first global hotspot. And there I helped lead a team that supported 15,000 sailors and their families as we all worked to safely navigate the pandemic on 6 bases in 5 countries and 3 continents, while also continuing to protect and defend. Duluth, I served on our city council for 5 years and was twice elected council president by my peers. You have also elected me 3 times to the legislature with margins ranging from 72 to 77%. Duluth, you are smart, you are engaged, you pay attention. If my service were as awful as the other team has worked so hard to tell you, I know that Duluth voters would have chosen someone else to be their cheerleader and advocate. In closing, I'm going to take you back to where we began, standing in the January cold outside the Piedmont Heights Community Center. We said then that as everyday Duluthians, we deserve to expect more from City Hall, and we know we can sure do better in delivery of our basic city services. Last January, we also said the city needs to be a better partner to its businesses, its organizations, its residents, and even its own city employees. 10 months later, we are endorsed by Duluth Fire, and we are endorsed by Duluth Police, the first joint public safety endorsement for mayor in recent memory. And the third major union at City Hall, Ask Me Council 5, Local 66, chose not to endorse in this race at all. That means none of the unions representing our city employees is asking for their current boss. And that is pretty telling. Duluth, I am so proud of our campaign. Team Roger for Duluth, or RFD as we like to say, we are a little team of Duluth volunteers, no paid staff, no focus groups, no political consultants, and no busing in campaign volunteers from the cities. Every core member of Team RFD has a day job, including me. I am not getting paid to run for office. And even as the candidate on our team, I'm a volunteer. We chose to honor the nonpartisan nature of the office and not seek any political party endorsements. We chose to not pressure individuals and elected officials for personal endorsements. Why? Because we all need to be able to work together when this is over. And frankly, because Duluth endorsed is the endorsement that matters most to me. This little but mighty Team RFD has taken on St. Paul politics and DC special interests and stayed the course while doing it. When we launched our campaign, you heard me speak to our campaign values. This next part is directly from my speech that day, back on January 12th. Quote, "You will hear me at times be critical. That's appropriate in any debate of policies and ideas. But this will not be a negative campaign." Still true 10 months later. Nor will it ever be personal to any other candidate. Still true 10 months later. I have never been that candidate or elected official, and I'm not going to start now. How we campaign matters. And even in the way we campaign, Let's expect more and do better. The change in tone and behavior voters want can start in Duluth, and it can start right now. Friends, I hope you paid attention to that over the course of this campaign. Mayor Larson has repeatedly said, pay attention, the details matter, and the choice is clear. I agree. You never heard me tell you I'm the best, and perhaps just as importantly, that someone else is not. You didn't even hear me use the word opponent, not once in 10 months. It's inherently divisive, and this election has never been personal. How we choose to campaign matters, and I ask you to reflect on that tonight. We can choose to add civility to our community or detract from it. We can behave in ways that encourage others to consider serving or make them ask, why the hell would I ever put myself through that? Even in the face of mailers, websites, social media ads, and billboards, and just today, text messages, we stayed true to our stated values, positive, forward-looking, and focused on the issues. For the first time ever, we've seen the DC playbook applied to one of our local races. Words like risky, dangerous, trust, cherry-picked votes taken out of context, tactics intended to mislead and make you afraid. If you're still undecided in this race tonight, I invite you to make your decision based on this alone. Say no to these tactics. The ends do not justify the means. And if they work in this race, we will see them in every race from now on. Still worse, they only serve to discourage qualified candidates from running. And friends, we want more meaningful choice, not less. Duluth, you have had the opportunity to see my public service for nearly 20 years. A deep commitment to our community, our state, our nation. You've also had the opportunity to see how I do the work. Thoughtful, approachable, hands-on. The ability to gather diverse stakeholders and develop practical solutions. I am proud to have served you on the council, in the legislature, at the deck, and overseas. The office of mayor is a final call to service in the community that I love with a passion. And now for the final closing argument. Over the past 10 months, we've had thousands of conversations with homeowners, business owners, and everyday Duluthians. And friends, the choice is clear. If you think Duluth is headed in the right direction, then vote for a third term. But if you have concerns, if you expect more, if you believe we can do better, then join your friends and neighbors in taking the risk to vote for something different tomorrow on November 7th. Thank you.